Her problem at this point is not the Republicans. Her problem is the FBI and the Obama Justice Department. And what Democrats are quietly absolutely petrified about is that come summer, you know, you find an indictment of people around her, or a request for a special prosecutor, something that just basically turns this into a complete disaster for the Democrats, in which it's too late to change horses.
All right, that was Peter Baker from the New York Times outlining a very grim reality for Hillary Clinton and the Democrats. Now, this after the State Department announced on Friday that 22 of Clinton's emails will not be released because they were deemed to be top secret. Joining us now with more, Fox News contributor, Washington Times columnist Monica Crowley, and the author of Undemocratic. The expanded paperback version comes out on Tuesday from the American Center for Law and Justice, Jay Sekulow. All right, both of you guys have been on this story in a really big way. We have followed this in a big way right here on this program. Remember on Friday, Darrell Issa, former House Oversight Committee chairman, the FBI would like to indict Hillary and Huma Abedin. Okay, if that's true, Jay Sekulow, and they recommend, if Comey and the FBI recommend that they move forward with indictment and they don't, that's an even bigger problem than if she is indicted, isn't it?
Well, sure, because you have the director of the FBI who at that point, his agents, and when I was a government lawyer, this is what happened, Sean. The agents put together a case. There's developed what's called a criminal reference letter. That is reviewed by the director. The director would then make the case to the attorney general that a grand jury should be impaneled here or indictment should issue. And if the attorney general were to just blow that off or dismiss it when you've got the FBI director, if in fact he were to make that recommendation and she just says no, or it comes down from the president, we're not going to go there, I think you run the risk, the president runs the risk of a legacy issue, and that is you'd have serious senior career FBI agents, lawyers walking out. I mean, I think they would be, the reaction would be strong if a criminal case of national security interest reached the level of the FBI director, and that's, of course, you know, assuming this comes into play, that the FBI director makes the recommendation for a criminal prosecution and the attorney general says no, big problems.
You know, and by the way, he has proven in the past that that is an option that's available to him, and he almost did it when George W. Bush was president. Right. Monica, let me throw it to you. Okay, so we have the Inspector General and the intelligence community says dozens of email are beyond top secret classification, special access programs, SAP. And now we've got this new report, 22 emails. They cannot even release them because of the highly sensitive nature of the intelligence. Now, that is contrary to everything Hillary has told us. And by the way, in each individual case, I would imagine a felony. How bad is this for her?
Yeah, well, this is a gathering storm of her own making, Sean. Look, let's remember two things. First of all, as far as we know, the FBI investigation is proceeding along two tracks. You have the possible mishandling of classified top secret material. You also have the public corruption track, which involves whether or not she and perhaps her husband used her work at the State Department, commingled that to benefit either them personally and or the Clinton Foundation. Also remember another important thing. All of these emails about which we are hearing, all of the problematic ones, the top secret documents, highly sensitive, highly classified, those came from the emails that she turned over to the State Department. We have not heard yet what's in the 30,000 or so that she deleted that the FBI is now recovering.
But we don't even know if they got them.
Those are the most damaging emails.
Yeah.
Right. Yes, Catherine Herridge, actually a few days ago, Sean, Catherine Herridge reported on this network that in fact the FBI was able to recover those emails. Presumably they're the most damaging. We have no idea what's in those.
All right, now let's go to the president's involvement here, because I would assume he's going to have a lot of influence over Loretta Lynch and whatever decision she ultimately makes. And if they politicize this, I think this becomes almost Watergate too. But you know, the president said last March he didn't know about the Hillary Clinton secret email. He learned about it on the news just like the rest of us. Here's what he said.
When did you first learn that Hillary Clinton used an email system outside the U.S. government for official business while she was Secretary of State?
At the same time, everybody else learned it through news reports.
Jay, that's not true, because he was emailing her on that private email 18 times.
Yeah, 18 times.
So does he have explaining to do?
Yeah, so here, sure, but here's what's going to happen. I mean, this is the reality of the law versus the politics. Under equal justice under the law, if anybody else was investigated for this, and if the evidence lays up like we think it's going to, there would be an indictment, and the president wouldn't be intervening. But this is the presumptive frontrunner of the Democratic Party during a general election. If she becomes, Doug Schoen mentioned this the other day, if she loses, say, Iowa and New Hampshire and looks politically vulnerable, that political protection may evaporate. That's not the way it should be, by the way. It should be equal justice under the law, and if there's a case to be made and it's a criminal case, it should be prosecuted. So part of this is the president willing to, two risks here. Number one, is he willing to tell his FBI director, if in fact James Comey makes the recommendation to Loretta Lynch for prosecution, is he willing to tell someone of James Comey's stature, who, as you've said, Sean, has stood up to his own administration before when he was appointed by Republicans? He has said no on situations. Is he willing, the president, willing to buck the FBI director, or is he willing to tell the Attorney General of the United States, go where the evidence leads?
Amazing.
And that becomes a legacy issue for the president. It shouldn't be the factor, but that is going to be no doubt what's playing right now. And believe me, as this, they are worried about it at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Hey, Sean.
All right, I totally,
Sean,
yeah,
can I
Monica,
just add
go ahead.
one thing?
Last word.
Yeah, I just want to add one thing. I have always thought, and I've expressed this, that I think that what we have been watching here is a very bloody but unspoken negotiation between Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton. I do not think that Hillary Clinton is Barack Obama's first choice to be the Democratic nominee. I think he would rather eat his own knee than turn the Democratic Party back over to the Clintons. But the question is, what do the Clintons have? What cards do they have to play against Barack Obama? If in fact the president knew she had this private email, you know, that could be a card. Perhaps Benghazi, perhaps the IRS scandal, Fast and Furious. We don't know what card she is playing against him. So we don't know what ultimately the end game is going to be. And as soon as that it leaves the hands of the FBI, whether or not there is a criminal referral, then it becomes a political matter. And that's when all of these questions that I just raised come into play.
Yeah.
And the president was caught lying on that tape. Great points by both of you. Yep. Great to see you both. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean.
And coming up next tonight, right here on Hannity.
She's disqualified from being president of the United States. She exposed sensitive and classified information to foreign intelligence agencies because she thinks she's above the law.
I'm frankly flabbergasted that she ever got herself in this position. And
Republican presidential candidates are slamming Hillary Clinton for the server scandal. Peter Johnson Jr., Doug Schoen will join us next with reaction, and then later tonight.
We're going to make our country powerful and strong again, and we're going to make our country respected again.
We will win the caucuses, and we will win the nomination, and we will win the general election.
The countdown to the Iowa caucuses is on, and the candidates have been busy making their final pitches. Geraldo Rivera, Mercedes Schlapp will be here to weigh in, and that and more on the special Sunday night edition of Hannity.
She doesn't have what it takes to be commander-in-chief. It should preclude her from being considered for commander-in-chief, because if you're not even going to obey the law with national security secrets, I think it shows that you don't have what it takes.
If she's indicted, we're not talking about speeding tickets. We're not talking about, taking the mattress tags off her mattress. We are talking about serious offenses for which the Obama Justice Department threw the book at General Petraeus.
I'm frankly flabbergasted that she ever got herself in this position, and it's a serious matter, and we're going to let the legal system grind its way and figure out how this all gets disposed of.
She's disqualified from being president of the United States. She exposed sensitive and classified information to foreign intelligence agencies because she thinks she's above the law.
Now, the Republicans came out hard against Hillary Clinton and her server scandal. Now, the last few days, joining us with reaction, Fox News legal analyst Peter Johnson Jr., Democratic pollster, Fox News contributor Doug Schoen. Peter, I want to pick your legal brain if I can here. When you have 22 emails deemed too classified to be released to the public, isn't that an admission to the public that felonies were committed, because we know what the law is in this case? And also, doesn't that make it very likely that the FBI director is going to move forward with a criminal referral?
It may be an indicia of a crime that's been committed with regard to these emails, but the greater indicia, and perhaps on the face, is the evidence that these classified or top secret or other sensitive materials were A, stored, and B, communicated over open servers, homebrew servers, and BlackBerries like a lot of Americans have that were not issued by the State Department or by the White House or by the federal government. Yeah. I think John Kasich has it right. It's a legal issue. It is going to grind itself out, but she will perhaps be forced to disqualify herself if this goes forward.
All right, Peter, one process question. You know, explain the process by which a grand jury will convene in a case like this. When would that happen?
Based on this type of federal issue, the FBI would make a determination and a referral. And the Justice Department, based upon that referral, would exercise prosecutorial discretion. It means they don't have to take it to a grand jury. But if they do take it to a grand jury and a grand jury decides to indict, then there's an indictment. But then the question becomes, for Hillary Clinton, answer this question, Secretary Clinton. Will you agree not to pardon any aides that have been indicted? Will you agree that if you are in fact indicted, that you will appoint a special prosecutor? Under those conditions, I think Doug will agree she can't stay in the race.
Boy, what a powerful question. I'm not surprised coming from my friend Peter Johnson Jr. If that question begins to get asked, Doug Schoen, and she has to answer that question, and she says she won't take a definitive stance, I think that would be very damning for her. Thoughts?
Yeah, I think it would be, and I think Peter is exactly right. I would say her response today was telling. She now is saying that these emails were not generated by her server, and she's trying to argue that she is not in some way culpable.
But they're not allowed to be on there.
She didn't violate a negligence standard.
No,
I don't think it's a good
to be on there
defense,
legally.
but that is her defense. Yeah. I'm sorry?
Peter, they're not allowed to be on there. That's the problem, and she knew that.
I mean, that's what General Petraeus faced and others have faced, holding on to evidence. But in the end, it is a matter of prosecutorial discretion. And I think you made sense earlier here, Sean. I don't think the White House is going to be stepping up to defend Hillary Clinton with regard to these particular emails and her conduct. If the FBI and the Justice Department believe that a crime has been committed, then it will be referred, and there's a likelihood that she will be indicted. I don't know whether she will or not, but if those conditions prevail, that will in fact happen, and you might have Vice President Biden or Elizabeth Warren or someone else heading up the Democratic ticket for president.
Sean, I've said
if that happens,
I don't think she will be indicted by the Justice Department. Just don't think it'll happen.
Okay, if it does happen, who are the candidates?
If it does happen, the campaign will end if she's indicted. I think it's still a big if. And Joe Biden, I think Peter's exactly right, is waiting in the wings. He's made it clear he wants to run. Biden and Elizabeth Warren is the likely ticket that I think we would get. But Bernie Sanders isn't going away. Let's be clear. He's at least 50% to win tomorrow. He's going to win New Hampshire. This is a muddled race, and this is another issue, making it further more cloudy and complicated.
We need to see even more evidence at this point, Sean. I don't think there's a basis at this point that we can conclude she will be indicted. But if the evidence is there, I believe the FBI will act in a responsible way and enforce the law.
I agree. Or they'll resign.
I agree with Peter. I don't think we have the evidence yet. It's still a political process.
It's not political when it's in the hands of the FBI. But all right, guys, thank you both.
It's political.
The Iowa caucuses are less than 24 hours away, and the candidates have been busy making their final pitches. When we come back, Geraldo Rivera, Mercedes Schlapp, they will have reaction. That and more on the special Sunday night edition of Hannity.